this anyway, so we could show the guys, like I know Ben asked, but if we could video it for him. But anyway, first of all, I want to introduce Ryan O'Handley. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ryan's our player development director for Ice Hockey Australia, but he also coaches the Adelaide Adrenaline, and one of the reasons why we couldn't get Ryan here earlier than this is because he's been overseas, because he also coaches the national men's senior team. Okay, so I don't need to give you any more about Ryan's experience. I'll let him carry on. But anyway, go ahead, Ryan. Thank you.
We need to be polite for the next hour and a half only.
That's right.
Yeah,
Adrenaline.
The
gloves are off.
Just before I begin, thanks for coming out. This has been the best turnout. I've been giving these presentations all over Australia. This has been the best turnout as far as coaches and board members, etc. So thanks for that, because I think what I'm talking about is really important. And if we don't have everybody buying in, then there's no point in going forward with a program like this. So yeah, and I'm here today. This coincided with our trip here to play the Brave tonight. So hopefully you guys can all come down and watch what's going to be a really good hockey game. We're pretty happy about the Brave and all the positive things happen here. I'm not so happy from maybe tonight because it's going to be a really good team we're facing, but for hockey it's fantastic, really fantastic. So, so look, I'm just going to talk to you about the National Player Development Framework. I was tasked with this, probably about 18 months ago I started to put this together. In October last year at the AGM for Ice Hockey Australia, I presented this to the board. And the board, I got some very good positive feedback from the board, and they said, you need to go present this to the States Association. So I've been doing that, and that's what I'm going to present today. The purpose of this program is written here, the mission, to create a framework within which Australian ice hockey players can develop their full potential. Every player that starts our sport, we owe it to them to provide them with a program that they can reach their full potential. Now that potential is going to differ. Obviously there's athletic ability, variations in height, size, etc. that obviously limit a player's potential. We need to ensure that all players can reach their full potential though, regardless of what that is. And that's one of the purposes of this program. And also get more Australian kids to play ice hockey and retain those players. If we don't have a program, and we don't have a direction where we're going, it can be really frustrating for a player to come into the sport. And if they don't see where they can go, they don't see pathways, they may leave the sport. Particularly when they get into the teenage years, 15, 16, 17. You all know what I'm talking about. We have players that leave the sport in those ages, and we need to retain them. Part of that is having a program in place so they know, geez, the next step is here, the next step is here, the next step is here. All right? And they get benefit from the program. The rationale for this, from a national perspective, from an IHA perspective, it has a lot to do with IHF world rankings. We need to move up. The higher we move up in the IHF rankings, the more resources we get. Just as an example, if the men go to Division 1, we get money, quite a bit of money. If we stay in Division 1, we get more money. All right? So one of the things is if we can get the men's team to Division 1 and stay in Division 1, money comes into our programs. Eventually that flows down. And I was chatting to Rocky about this earlier. Unfortunately, the women don't get as much money as the men. And that's a IHF issue. All right? But it's the same thing. We move the women up too. There's resources that feed into that. Also, we want to align each state, each club, with a long-term athlete development-based program. So from Western Australia to Queensland, we want all of our clubs, all of our states, using the same program to develop hockey players. So we're all on the same page. All right? I've described it as we've got a boulder to push up a hill. We've all got to push the boulder, right? If we're all pushing different boulders, we're not going to get them up the hill, right? So we got to work together. And our players deserve it. That's the big thing. They deserve a program like this. I've called it We Are Potential. This is a picture from last year's McRae-Williamson Jamboree. We had over 90 kids participate in South Australia. It was fantastic. All right? And before I get too much into the program, a lot of this program is based on programs that are already existing. USA Hockey has a long-term athlete development program, and this program resembles theirs closely because they have a very similar situation to us where they're trying to grow the sport. Right? So a lot of what I'm saying is nothing new. It's been tried, it's been tested. But, I mean, I look at this picture and I say, there's a lot of kids there. If we can get them to reach their full potential, we're going to have or we will start moving up in the rankings. So where do we sit? This is a table showing the number of players here and the world ranking of the nations in the IHF. This is just a few of the nations here. So we're ranked 21st as far as our population. All right, so that's the ranking as far as population. Obviously Canada, registered players 617,000. We're here 21st ranked, 3,721. We're 32nd ranked in the world. I want to point out, Belarus is hosting the elite pool this year, okay? They have just over 200 more players registered than we do, all right? Hungary, fewer players than us, they're in Division 1, all right? So it's not a population thing, all right? We have enough players, you know, where we can be playing at a higher level. No question in my mind. Now this is a really simplistic way of presenting how we might be tracking as a nation. And obviously the data gets skewed a lot with the nations that have a high population or a low population. But what I want to point out is this is basically a ratio, your world ranking versus and your population. So if your world ranking matches your population, you're going to be on the line, which is a 1. All right? Now obviously a country like Canada, because they have so many players registered, and they were ranked, when I did this graph, they were ranked 4th or 5th in the world. All right, so they fall well below the line. Lost to France last night, by the way. All right. I want to point out Sweden. Sweden's #1 ranked nation in the world. Okay, 50,000 people or 50,000 players. All right, so good program. So we're here. All right, so we're below our level. We need to get up to that level as a minimum. I think we need to start. That's got to be the short-term plan, is to match our world ranking with our population level. All right?
We're even with Mongolia.
We're even with Mongolia, yeah. Mongolia is doing as good a job as we are right now. No, I mean it's simplistic, but you understand sort of the point of this is that if we can get up to this line, we'll start tracking really well. All right, long-term athlete development. There are 5 stages to this program. The first stage is the fundamental program, fundamentals, and you see fun is in bold and big text because it is all about fun when we're learning the sport. The second stage is learn to train. The third stage is train to train. The fourth stage is to train to compete. And the fifth stage is compete to win. You notice it's only at the end where win shows up. All right? We got to create an athlete first. Then we got to create a hockey player. And we got to create a hockey player that can compete and knows how to train. And then we can create a hockey player that knows how to win. And it's a process. All right? And there's lots of research that shows if you're doing this too early, your players leave the sport, they never develop full potential, etc. So there's a process that we have to follow. Why long-term athlete development program? This is a question that USA Hockey is getting. They've been actually very supportive of us. Kevin McLaughlin, their player development director, and I are in touch quite frequently. So they get a lot of the same questions that I've been getting now. I was just bringing this in. But specialization. I mean, hockey is a highly specialized sport. What we found is that you need well-rounded multi-sport athletes. They're the best at hockey. All right? So we want to develop the athlete first. All right? And then later on, we specialize a hockey player. There's also windows of trainability. As kids grow and develop, their bodies change, they go through puberty, etc. So there's windows of trainability that we need to align what we're teaching them as far as skill development to those windows of trainability. All right? There's something called the 10-year rule, which is just an expression, but it's an expression referring to 10 years or 10,000 hours, relating to the number of hours you need to practice to become proficient. Obviously, that's a lot of hours, but what it's saying is that we've got to also do stuff off ice as well as on ice. All right, and it doesn't all have to be hockey related stuff. Again, it's about developing an athlete. Physical, mental, cognitive, emotional development, we have to take that into consideration when we're developing an athlete, an hockey player. All right, because kids change a lot as they grow up. All right, and you need to consider that. That's particularly important when we're dealing with, you know, our 15, 16, 17-year-olds. There's a lot going on with that age group. Periodization. Okay, segmenting the calendar year into appropriate time intervals. And that's appropriate time intervals. They're different from a novice or an atom player to an AIHL player. There's, you know, novice and atom players don't need to be playing sport all year round. AHI players don't play it all year round either, but they will play it longer. And it's recognizing that. Differences there. System alignment integration, obviously getting everybody on the same page. All right? Allows us to plan for competition a little easier from both not only state but also a national standpoint, and obviously continuous improvement. This program, you build a base, you build on the base, and so on. It's like building a pyramid, all right? And that's one of the reasons why we put in a long-term athlete development-based program. Now, hockey is a late developing sport. This is data from USA Hockey. They collected. This was from the state of Illinois. They asked the question, so how many elite players, so-called elite players when they're young, are actually elite players when they get older? All right, so what they did is they followed a cohort of players that were playing AAA squirt, which is 10 and under. All right, and they followed them through to see how many of those players made the AAA midget team. All right, so 5 years later, 40 still played hockey out of the 63 they followed, which is 63.5%. It's not a very good ratio, actually. All right, so 23 kids quit hockey, so they were the so-called elite squirts, right? 12 played in an advanced level, so that's 19%. So 80% of the players in Illinois playing at the elite level of midget took a different path, because it's a late developing sport. All right. Also, 81% of the Tier 1 players, both 10 under 18, were born in the first half of the year. All right? And this is data here from, they collected looking at players in the Ontario Hockey League, Western Hockey League, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And this is the percentage of players by month of birth, and demonstrates the same thing. If you're born from January to June, you have a much better chance of making those teams. Okay? So it's a late developing. There you go. It's a late developing sport. 6 months makes a difference for our sport. All right. So these are things we have to consider when we're building a hockey player, and we see it. I see it a lot now. Now, you know, as you develop as a coach, you start seeing things that you never saw as a player. I see kids. I see the best Pee Wee kid in South Australia, and I go, you know what? He's not going to be the best kid if we're picking players for the Adelaide Adrenaline in 5 or 6 years. He's done growing. That's just a reality, all right? So we need to make sure I'm still playing, but we can't focus all our resources on that kid. We've got other kids. We've got to bring everybody up, all right? Because it's a late developing sport. One of the reasons why, there's numerous articles on this. This is a review article I read a few months ago. It was looking at muscle fatigue during high intensity exercise children. So they looked at all the literature related to this, and what they found is that if you take kids under the age of 11 and you make them exercise to full exertion, all right, so they basically exhaust themselves, the period for them to recover where they can exercise to that same level again is very, very short compared to adults, right? Because their physiology is different. All right, one of the reasons for that is they actually haven't developed fast twitch muscles, right? So they're basically they're aerobic machines instead of anaerobic machines. All right. So we need to recognize that, and that's why, you know, the kids can go have a quick rest, they can do it again, right? But they never seem to be able to go as hard as they can, but they go for a long time. All right. But as they get older, you develop fast twitch muscles. You go through puberty, things change. And of course, hockey is very reliant on those fast twitch muscles. It's a sport of sprinting, you know. Sprinting and then occasionally running into something, right? So the conditioning is very different. So will this work? This is a photograph from 2008-2009 in Skellefteå, Sweden. There's a population of 40,000 and a club of 300 players, and they don't cut any kids. The ice is only in for 6 months. All volunteer and parent coach up until the age of 14. 700s are on 2 times a week, 1000 3 times a week, 1200 4 times a week, and that's a photograph from that year of the number of players they put on national teams. Right? The little fin standing out there.
How'd he get in?
Yeah. So this will work. All right. I went over to the youth coaching symposium last year at the World Championships, and they were in Sweden. And there was a lot of discussion about player development, athlete development. They were debating what age a player should specialize in hockey. And it was around the 16 or 17 year age that they were discussing. All right, and they were talking about the Sedins, because they were great soccer players and they played floorball as well. And they didn't really specialize in hockey till about that age. So it's, in a nation, so a top nation recognizes that, It's about building an athlete. So, any questions so far?
So you're saying when they, the older they get, the more time on the ice they should have. When they're younger, they should have less because of the recovery time.
They don't need as much ice when they're 7, 8 years old. You need to start. What the program does is, as they go through the program, we need more and more ice for them. And obviously that's going to be very difficult for us. That's one of our challenges. All right, but we don't need 7, 8 year olds on the ice 3, 4 times a week. We don't need 12 and 13 year olds on the ice 5 or 6 times a week. It's 2 times a week, or it's 2 to 3 times a week. There was a coach in Sweden last year. His name is Jim Brithen, and he does a lot of player development work with clubs all over Europe. And he was just hired by a club in the Ukraine, and they have a KHL team. And so they want him to come in and make sure they can develop players to sustain that team. He says their 7 and 8 year olds were on the ice 6 times a week. He's cut it all back. He says that's ridiculous. They're little kids. So he's cut it down to 3 times a week.
So when can you go up? After 17 or 16?
Okay. It's in all these stages. There's the guidelines are there. All right. Yep.
I know in the ADM they recommend full practices to 1 game. Is that similar to what we ever?
Absolutely, yes. There's more for this. There's a higher practice to game ratio. Yeah.
What happens with the players that are born second half of the year? Do they give up, or is it just a waste of time for them? Or?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. They're just not. 6 months is a lot. Like you think about junior hockey, it's 16, the Bantam draft is 15, right? So 6 months is a lot. So it's just they just get overlooked. And I guess it may not apply here because our season's opposite. So it might be the opposite here. But what it's pointing out is that we got to be patient with some kids. Can't be in a rush. They'll get there. And it's about allocating resources appropriately. You can't leave kids behind. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that as I go through the stages. So,
one of the things for that though, Ryan, is because the 6 months is because we're talking about age group competitions.
Yeah.
And as soon as you step out of age group competitions and you don't start dividing the kids up by age, that goes out the window.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Because you got a 2-year age group, and these other kids are already 6 months behind. There's no way they're going to catch up.
Look, school's the same way, right? If you're the youngest kid, my oldest son is the youngest kid in his class. It's something I guess we have to be aware of. There's not going to be a right way to change it around. That's probably easy or perhaps practical. But if we're aware of it as coaches, we recognize it, then we won't forget about those kids. All right, I'll go through the stages. Stage 1, fundamental stage. So this is what we've done. Now what we've done for this program, we've aligned the age groups with our national events. All right? Now our first national event that we have, as far as age group goes, is the McRae-Williams and Jamboree, and that's for 11 years and under. But we have 2 groups in that. We have a 9 and under group, and then we have 11 and under group. So this first stage is for that 9 and under group. Okay? It's a fundamental stage. McRae-Williams and Jamboree is the event. All right. Now the focus at this stage is all about fundamental movement. So we say the ABCs, agility, balance, coordination, and flexibility. That's what we want these kids to learn on the ice, all right? We want them falling down and getting up, all right? We want them moving laterally, right? We want them figuring out how their bodies work, right? That's really, really important. There's a speed window there, okay? So that's why we want agility and quickness, all right? And of course, we need balance in hockey. It's very important, all right? And it's not just hockey that we need to be playing. It's other sports, okay? They must be played at this stage to ensure full development. It's about making sure muscles develop properly, coordination develops properly, right? I see a lot of kids come in this age group, they can't run forwards, they can't run backwards. And then we're expected to teach them to skate, right? You've probably all been there, right? That's a bit of a challenge, right? So they've got to be doing other things. Now in this group, you group them together by skill, because you're going to have a wide disparity on the ice. I know you're all thinking, yeah, when I coach this level, oh God, there's kids, they're all over the place, right? Group them by skill, but all on the same sheet ice, okay? And you move them around, because, you know, little Johnny might not be so good at, you might struggle with turning, right? But he handles the puck pretty well, all right? So he'll need more work on this, but when we do the puck handling stuff, well, we can move him up to a group that maybe is a little more advanced, all right? So you've got to have freedom between the groups. Up to 60 kids per session. Now, we're looking at 2 to 3 times 50-minute sessions per week, all right? This we're doing, I think, across the country. I think everyone's getting about 2, all right? It'd be nice to get 3, all right, but 2's okay. And then off ice, 1 times 30 per minute per week. Now this isn't like off ice training for hockey. They're doing phys ed at school, they're doing another sport, that counts. Okay, make sure they're doing something else. 5-month season, 9 to 13 players per team, no full-time goaltenders, no position specialization. Practice the game ratio 2 to 1. All right, 2 to 1 for this group. It moves up to 3 to 1, a little higher, right? But 2 to 1 for them because they want to have fun. They want to play games. Okay. Now the games are cross-ice games. No full ice games for this age group. Okay. It's actually detrimental to their development. And this is a big thing. Parents, oh, my kid's not real hockey. Yeah, it is real hockey. All right. I know it's real hockey because I coach enough real hockey that I know little kids on full ice ain't real hockey. Shrink the ice, it's real hockey. Right? So you need cross-ice games. There's Belgium. That's Herentals, another club there. They're going cross-ice. All right? We beat them 7-1. Power play was clicking. All right? Any guess what country this is? There you see all the rinks divided? Look at those rink board dividers they got.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That's what we need.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, there's a body check. Oh, there's a good shot. Anyone have any idea what country that is?
European country.
That's Sweden. That's Sweden's novice program. I reckon they know a thing or two about hockey. All right. Look at that. I think that's cool. That's just cool.
I was gonna say.
They got the rink all divided up different ways. Now, but what's this teaching the kids how to do? Hockey's all about finding time and space, right? So they've got to work for it. They've got to work for time and space. The only thing I don't like about this, the goals are too big. They need little nets. Little nets. All right. Now that is pretty similar to that. Right? Where's the time and space? Got to make decisions quick. Someone's on you all the time. All right? Very similar. All right? And I'm just going to bring up this YouTube clip. All right.
I mean, it's daunting. It's huge. That's the main thing. It's just size is just too big. I know, it's too big. ice surface, I kind of was looking down and trying to figure out where it started and stopped. It's the view of what ice was like when we were kids. You know, this is what it was like, and you forget that when you get older. Looking out at this as a kid, it would be overwhelming. Just wondering, you know, if you're going to get up and down the ice surface. We thought this was for a completely different sport. It almost looked like a joke. You know, you see the giant nets and everything. There's no way we're playing full ice on this. Am I going to play on this? Oh, jeez. No.
Yeah, and you know what? We wonder why we can't score internationally, right? It starts when you're a little kid.
That is a big net. I mean, the goalie's like standing up and
You end up spending a lot of time in open space, and you're not touching the puck.
we realize how bunched up we were spread out and use the ice, but then you weren't part of the play. You were so far out of it. And there's a lot of chasing. There's not much contact. If you're out of position once, you're not going to get back in up to the play. So, yeah, it's very unforgiving. If you're caught out of position on this, with a big sheet of ice, there's a lot of one-on-one type play. So if you can beat one guy, the other team's so far away they can't even catch you. If you're a defenseman and you're beat, you're just going to probably more or less tend to give up. Now, the long passes, are so long that they're easy to intercept. It's hard to communicate because everybody's spread out so far. And you're out of breath, so that makes it hard too. I need more water. A few more minutes to breathe would scare me if it was my first time, because I can't do that every day. Thanks, guys, for the worst game of my life. I'm exhausted. And even just once up and down the ice, I came out here and had to lay down in the track because it was just wearing me out. If I was just a little guy, I want to play as slow ice as possible.
There's too much time between the action.
I think for kids with their attention spans, it makes it even more difficult because they lose interest if they're not involved in the play. Anybody that would experience it for the first time would not be able to pick up the style of play, how to be in position. It would be way too difficult, way too much area to cover. It's a little less thrilling, a little less exciting. It's the way we play out here. It's nothing like that you play in real life. The surface is way too big to learn.
All right. So, where's my presentation here? All right. So, that's why we're going to need them on small ice. All right. It's really important. It's the decision making that you have to make in hockey. You get imprinted very, very quickly. And when little kids get imprinted, that's what they think it is their whole life. An analogy I always thought my dad was bigger than me, till I went away for about 3 or 4 years. And then I came home and went, he's a little shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 6'2", why am I worried about him, right? No, because when I was little, he was big, you know, and that you get imprinted. So a kid thinks he can beat one man skate right down the middle of the ice and score. That's what they get used to doing. And now I have to, when I get them, as they get older, come through our program, the way kids have come through, I got to re-teach them that, because if you think, like tonight, if a guy wants to take the puck straight down the middle of the ice, Rumo or Josh Harding are going to kill him, right? Not going to give you the middle. So you have to be able to take the puck wide, wait for support. That's what the small ice teaches them. It imprints them. So it's really important. All right. Stage 2. Adam, 11 years and under. Learn to train stage. All right? McCray Williamson, second group. All right? Little nets, by the way. Double IHF has dimensions for little nets for little kids. They actually got them there. So if you could, Rock was saying there's a guy that can weld stuff, make some little nets. And you can make a bunch of them, you know?
You can do.
Learn to train stage, all right? So,
Where is he?
now, fundamental sports skills become the focus here. Throwing, striking, kicking. Your motor coordination is really important. Multiple sports, again, have to be played here. You can divide top half, bottom half, share the ice, okay? You can still have lots of kids on this ice. Decision-making windows become important. Small area games are really important for this group. Very important for this group. So you know what I talk about when I say small area games? All right? This group thrives on them. All right? And I'll just show you a real quick clip here. This is a USA Hockey one. Kevin McLaughlin sent me a whole bunch of stuff when I was overseas, because I said we're having trouble scoring goals. They've got SAGs for goal scoring. I'm going to send them out to everybody. But this is a passing SAG that they developed. All right, so you just got to pass through cones on the ice. It's a gate, okay? So you got a gate passing. Now, I won't play the whole thing, but I just want you to focus on what it's teaching them, okay? Because you know how traditionally we pass back and forth, and that's okay when they're little. You start them off that way, but this is real game-like situations, and you've got to learn to support, hold the puck, protect the puck, wait for support. Everybody's moving. Heads are up. You got to communicate, right? That's all there. That's
You get a point for each time you make
through
the
the,
pass.
yep, right, that's right. All right, so that's important, that sort of stuff. Now this has a lot to do, like we call it hockey sense, okay? But really there's something called an implicit skill and something called an explicit skill. All right, and an implicit skill is something, if you were to ask somebody who's learned a skill implicitly, can explain the skill, they can't. They just know how to do it. Whereas an explicit skill that's where whole part whole, which is actually how we coach hockey. It says in the manual, coach whole part whole. And that's okay, you can do that. But if you're relying only on that, that skill will break down under pressure. Now I've got a picture of a golfer here, because I tell you what, I'm a hell of a golfer on the range, guys. Everything's straight. I get out there on the first tee, and there's a little pressure on me now. I get the yips, because under pressure, the explicit skill will break down. I'm convinced, having coached at 3 world championships now, 2 with the under-20s and 1 with the men, goal scoring is an implicit skill. We are teaching it explicitly, and it breaks down under pressure. We get the puck in the slot under pressure, we can't score goals. All right? We're thinking about it too much. All right? And you see those snipers out there. And every you know, you watch the good snipers, and they can score. And they ask them how they score. I don't know. Mike Bossy, they always ask him, how do you score? I just shoot the puck at the net.
Well,
9 straight years of 50 goals. All right? Sports structure, up to 50 kids per session. Now 3 to 4 times 60-minute ice sessions per week. That's going to be a challenge for us. All right? SAGs, vital, off ice, 2 30 minutes. Phys ed's getting that, I think most states. 6-month season, 3-to-1 practice game ratio. That's where parents want to lynch you. I'm paying for the kid to play hockey. Yeah, well, we're supposed to teach them how to play hockey, right? So that's a tough one. Victoria's going 2-to-1 this year. They're just bringing it in. They're ramming it down their throats. Travis calls me all the time. He's keep going. Right. All right. 10 to 12 skaters, 1 goalie. No other position specialization. Okay, so you can have a goalie now, but no other position specialization. You don't know if a kid's going to be a defenseman or a centerman or a winger yet. Okay. And introduction to formal full ice games here. All right. Stage 3.
sorry, Ryan, just a quick question on that.
Yep.
You're saying 25 games at a 2-to-1 potential ratio, so we're playing 40 to 75 games a season,
Good. No. So 20 to 25 games.
including practice?
Yeah. No. So that's it. That's
the
the max number of games you play. Okay.
So
you'd be
60
doing 3
practices.
practices to that.
Yeah, 60.
This is the ideal. This is the ideal, guys.
What age group?
This is 11s.
10, 11,
This is ideal. This is not something that we are going to be able to turn on a switch and get resources to do this. But I've got some suggestions sort of at the end of these groups, what we have to think about, okay? We need a map, we need a direction, something to strive to. But again, this is gonna be a challenge. Now, stage 3 is Pee-wee, 13 under. It's learn to train stage as well. So what we can do here nationally is if you got Adams and Pee-wees, you can group them together because it's a learn to train stage, okay? They're a little more advanced, but it's the same sort of skill set that they're working on. Okay, Ginsburg's our tournament. Okay, it's the same thing. Fundamental sports skills, throwing, striking, kicking. All right. This is where we see the largest improvement though. This is where you got that gangly, you know, was a gangly 11-year-old and all of a sudden he's 13, and you go, well, where'd that kid come from? They start to really improve here. And that's where we get them at development camp for the first time. We get Pee Wee development camp. What we've done now, we've opened development camp up. It used to be, oh, you just state sent sort of any team players that made the Ginsburg team. We said, no, we can't leave any Pee Wees behind. They can all go to development camp. Because what we saw, we did this year, what we saw, huge improvement. That first group that went in, oh, massive improvement in development camp. All right? So we're opening that up. Multiple sports played. Again, divided on skill, but we want broad. This is where you get the, you know, the kid that's a little bit better than everybody else, he starts pulling them up, right? And I have to try to explain that. I got parents always go, I want to move my kid up. Well, no, you're not moving him up. First of all, there's nowhere to go because he's going to take some other kid's ice in the higher grade group. But it's like he's there, he's pulling everybody else up as well. Okay, now as a coach, you just got to challenge him. We have to do a little work as coaches and make sure we're challenging those kids. But they're pulling that group up with them. That's really important. All right. Decision-making window, again, small area game. So it's very similar to the group below. So you could combine them. Up to 50 kids per session. All levels receive the same number of touches. This is something we have to think about. You have a Ginsburg team, okay? You pick, I don't know, say you pick 15 players. 45 kids come out to tryouts, you pick 15. So now those 15 get extra trainings. What about the other 30? We're just going to let them, you know, push them aside. It's a late developing sport. We need something for them. Same number of touches, okay? 3 to 4 times 60 minutes. SAGs, we talked about that. Again, they're doing other sports, present at school, we've got that covered, okay? 6-month season, practice the game ratio. More games, but again, we're very close with the 2 age groups here. Okay, maximum 15 skaters, no more than 2 goalies. No position specialization yet, all right? All right. I know everyone's asking us, how are we going to do this?
Can I just ask another question?
Yep, absolutely.
Because we're delaying the position specialisation, do they not get that implicit ability to play that position?
So, as a coach, I want a defenseman who can handle the puck, shoot, pass, and score. Because the game has changed. Positions are, I've got defensemen jumping into the play now. Like Josh Harding's leading the Adelaide Adrenaline scoring. He's got 3 goals. He's jumping into the play. That's what I want. That's how the game has changed. I don't want kids thinking, oh, I'm a defenseman, now I have to sit back here and defend. No. You all have the same skill set. You all have to be able to pass, shoot, score. The positioning side of that, we teach a little later. They'll pick that up. That's easy to pick up. All right? But we want those skills. All right? I mean, one of our issues when we went overseas, we didn't have, I mean, I talked about, you know, I use Josh as an example, he's a fantastic defenseman, but when we went overseas, we didn't have a defenseman that could quarterback a power play. Didn't have the skill set. Wasn't good enough at doing those skills that you needed. All right, so I think you don't want to specialize them too early. You need those skills, right? That's having that base you build on, and then we'll create them. We had a kid come out, so he was on the youth teams, played forward his whole life, came out to Adelaide Adrenaline. First practice said, you're playing defense. I never played defense. We'll teach you how to play defense. You're playing defense. Now he loves it. It's the only way he's going to make the team, too.
Get more ice time, too.
You want to make the team in Australia, be a defenseman. Anyways. Suggestions. So, now, harder here, ACT's South Australia, because we only got the 1 facility. So that's a little harder, but share ice with another club. So I went to WA and I said, you've got 3 rinks, you've got 3 clubs, why don't you say, okay, we're going to train on Thursday, you guys train on Tuesday, and we'll just share the ice together. So you get the same ice, or twice the ice at the same price. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, of course it's a great idea. But we don't like those guys. I don't care. It's about the kids, right? It's about the kids.
We don't have to worry here because we got Darren organizing our ice time, so we got plenty.
I think inline has a place. In some states it's an absolute mess, but I think inline has a place. California put 2 first-round draft picks into the National Hockey League last year. and they didn't start playing ice hockey. They started inline. I think there's a place for it. It's something we gotta investigate, because it's not quite the same, but you can get some of those puck skills, all right? So that's a possibility. And of course, look, public sessions. I tell kids, go public skate. You can't stop one way, go public session. Work on it.
No.
We actually have more ice than we think in Australia, because we have public sessions, you know.
In some places, they will never change. You know, public sessions, I mean, they're etched in stone.
Yeah.
But obviously a challenge there. There's a challenge, like, and now the resources start getting more challenging here. But like I said, this isn't gonna be easy, but it's said, we need something working towards. Bantam, 15 years and under, train to freeze is our tournament. Where's the freeze this year? Newcastle, that's right. This is your second speed window. Now, I should mention here, as we're getting now into this group, girls, this starts a little earlier for girls. All right, so with girls, we're probably talking, instead of 15, we're probably talking 14, maybe 13, because they go into puberty earlier, okay? So we've got to make some adjustment for girls. But, second speed window with the fast twitch muscle development. I've seen this with numerous kids now in SA. They come all of a sudden, boom, how'd you get so fast? Well, fast twitch muscle development, right? And then they start bulking up after that, and they, you know. Hockey tactics become important, right? Now we start worrying about tactics, fitness and development. This is a critical point in the development of the athlete. We've got adolescents here. This is a funny group, right? Focus remains on the athlete, winning is still secondary. This is a group where we've all probably coached them. I mean, it's a tough, challenging group. There's a lot going on. Their bodies are changing, hormones, girls and boys, right? We just got to keep that in mind, all right? Sports structure. Now this 4 to 5 times 8 is the ideal. Okay, this is going to be a challenge, obviously, to get something like that. We want to get as close to it as we can, though. If we can only get 3, well, and you had 2 before, well, that's 1 better. 9-month season, 3-to-1 practice to game ratio, 16 skaters, 2 goalies. This is where position specialization begins. This is when we start saying, yeah, okay, this is where I see a kid that's going to be a good defenseman. This is where I got a kid that, you know, is going to be a right winger. This is where we start specializing our positions. Then move on to stage 5, midget and junior. Now, thank God for this. This junior league is fantastic, all right, and it's something that we all have to support, because midget programs are kind of hit and miss in Australia, but that's why I've lumped these together. So you don't have to have a midget program if you got kids playing in that junior program, all right. And keep in mind, the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League 14, Rocky.
Yep.
They come in at 14, okay? So we've got something there, all right? This is train to compete stage. Our tournament's TANG, so Australian Junior Ice Hockey League, Australian Women's Ice Hockey League for our female players. We got our under 18 or under 20 World Championships start here, okay? So this is where they learn how to compete at that level. Now, yep.
Ron,
Yep.
this is where we found historically in the past where we start to lose.
Absolutely. You know why we lose them? So why I think?
There's a whole host of things going on in there.
We lose them because, absolutely, and what we do is we tend to take 16 and 17-year-olds and we push them up with men. And what the hell they got in common with us? They want, this is why this league is so good. Now they have their peer group. Those are their buddies. You know, they've been to development camp with these other guys. They played against them, you know, and it's something we really got to support. It's been really good. 2 years we've had this junior league. The players we're getting from the junior league moving up to the IHL and onto the men's national team, outstanding. So it is. This is a tough. We do. Adelaide, we lost. Since I've been there, players we've lost, and you'll recognize some of the names. We've lost Jake McLeod. We lost Alex Otto. We lost James David. Around 17, 18, 19. That guts our program. Yeah, well, just there's nowhere for them to play. We had a junior team there 2 years ago. We didn't get them all back. We'll hopefully have one this year, and maybe we'll get some of them. But you're right. It's a challenge. So we need this program for those guys.
mean, you lose players at that age anyway. I remember at home we lost players. It really would.
Yeah.
That's why you
Yeah.
need that white base, don't you?
Well, we had, yeah, we lost Tom Paps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's back with the adrenaline. He's a big unit. Holy moly, you'll see him tonight. He's tattooed up, he's fearsome, I tell you. Hockey specialist, serious competition, right? Skills, tactics, strategy. This is when we're teaching kids how to run a power play, how to quarterback a power play. Nutrition, psychology, injury management. We have to teach this. We go away with the national team, right? Kid feels a tweak in his groin, doesn't tell the trainer, pulls the groin, and he's out, right? We have to teach them this. They don't know. Men this year, last day of training camp, we're running some drills. Liam Webster feels a twinge, goes off the ice. I go over and talk to the trainer, he goes, just felt a twinge. I said, that's fine. He knows. He's an old vet. I'm not risking this. That's a twinge, this is practice, big deal, right? Feels a little twinge, gets treatment, right? We get 5 great games out of him out of the Worlds. That's the difference. They need to be taught this. They can't automatically switch on and know, oh, well, should I seek medical attention for this? Yes. You feel something not right, go see the trainer. But they gotta be taught. Periodization planning starts here. This is where you take your calendar and you say to the kid, okay, you're doing off ice here. So leading up into the season, we're gonna some on ice, right? And now we're moving, into the season, competition, periodization, part of the schedule. You've got your competition and then you've got your off season. You schedule it all out now. All right? These are our committed athletes, all right? So this is these guys, I want to play hockey. That's the sport for me, right? So we need to give them the tools that they can do it. Sports director, again, ideal 5 to 6, 200 touches. That's the reason we put this up. This is what the top nations are doing, right? Like I said, I don't think we have the resources to do that, but we got to try to get close to it, all right? 10-month season, 2-to-1 practice to game ratio, 18 skaters, 2 goalies per team. That's the same makeup as if you go to a World Championship for the under 18s. That's what you take with you. Stage 6, compete to win. This is now when winning becomes the focus. Our elite players over 20 years of age. Our leagues, Australian Ice Hockey League, Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. We have the men's and women's World Championships. Okay, these are our hockey specialists, right? Skill, tactics, strategy. It's all the same as the window before, but now winning becomes the focus. When we go away World Championship for men and women, we're there to win it, right? That's a focus. We go. These guys want to win, right? But that's the age group where we focus on that. All right, sports structure very similar to one previous. You're allowed more players at this level. Right. Again, these resources are going to be difficult to obtain, but something we need to strive for. Okay, challenges, obviously. Ice time, I don't need to really elaborate on that. It's always a challenge in this country. But it's a challenge in other countries too, right? Costs. This one, I thought this is actually a challenge for us. Amateur versus professional clubs. We go away to World Championships, we're playing against nations that have pro clubs, and that's what they do for a living. And so, where we think, well, can we get ice time? Their ice for say, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds plus, right? Well, they can practice Wednesday at 11 o'clock, because that's what they do for a living. That's sort of how we differ. So we got to think of ways to sort of get around that, to give us some more resources. And this is going to take, everybody across the country, we need ideas in how we can achieve this, right?
But Ryan,
Yep.
one of the things you mentioned before is there is ice time there.
There is some,
that
yep.
people aren't using.
Yep.
There's 6:30 in the morning.
Absolutely.
Ice times. There's 11 o'clock at night
Yep.
ice times.
Yep.
People in Canada and Sweden are using that
Yep.
too. There's big, full-grown men training half ice with 2 teams on the ice.
Yep.
There's all this kind of stuff that,
Yep.
for some reason, we think we should
Well,
be doing.
I was just saying to Rocky, so I can train the Adelaide Adrenaline on half sheet ice. I do it most we come out, we'll do some flow drill stuff to get warmed up, right? And then most of our trainings we do end zone. We do defensive zone coverage. We work on a power play. We do penalty kill. We do battle drill after battle drill, one-on-ones. We do it all on half sheet ice. I'm thinking, I sometimes go, I should sell that other half off, right? But there's half that someone could produce. We could probably combine with a club. We'll train. You guys, we'll do sort of the large ice warm-up stuff together, and then we'll split off. We can be creative that way, and you can get more resources. But yeah, I mean, I can train them, and they're bagged by the end of it. You do battle drills and smaller games. We use lots of smaller games. Do that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a good training. So
We might need full ice because of the size of our rink. It is like full area game for the
implementation. I need support. I need support from all the states if this is going to go ahead. And education of coaches and parents. That's why I'm here. Parents are always saying they don't like change. When I brought novice into South Australia, put him on the small ice, almost got lynched. Now, a couple of years later, parents think this is how it's always been. Oh, wow, how great is this? Yeah, 2 years ago you did. You people weren't saying that, right? But it's the right thing to do. So just educate them. And look, we might need rewards or consequences for implementation or failure to implement. We've got, if we don't have everybody on board, it's not going to work. So we need ACT on board, WA, South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. Everybody. Now, obviously, the speed at which things can be rolled out is going to differ because resources differ from state to state. But we need everybody to say, "Look, we support this. We want to go that direction." It'll be really important. Strategies, right? We need to work with rinks and other clubs. He said inline. I think there's something we need to address with inline. That could be a potential resource for us. Funding, money. It's always an issue. Corporate backing. Fundraising, marketing. I mean, there was Olympics this year. I don't know how many associations took advantage of that. We didn't in SA. We should have. We should have in a position, had a marketing plan and said, look, there's going to be a lot, and there has been a lot of inquiries, and we have a little bit of growth. We haven't taken advantage of that. So, I mean, this is not a topic for today, but it's something we need to think about. How can we get more resources into our programs?
See, we grew our senior numbers by, I don't know, double.
Yeah.
Like, and
30% overall.
Yeah.
Well, having that guy Paul Furness take pictures really helps as well on Facebook and ACT Hockey because he's put people on the map. You can see yourselves and videos of games. It's all helps.
We don't have any problem with senior school.
Yeah, it's like the rest of the country.
And how do you compete?
Seniors is fine. New seniors,
Yeah.
they're walking in the door.
Yeah. I know our C grade competition is huge in SA.
Yeah.
But what we need guys. We need the AIHL has to cooperate with us. We've got to get players into schools. We've got to tell people we're here. There's people in South Australia who don't even know the rink's open because it closed a few years ago for a short period of time. They still think it's closed. President of our association was coming back from the airport, going to the rink. The taxi driver said that rink's closed. Because it's not closed. That sort of stuff. Anyways, we are potential. I love this picture. That's from McRae. From a couple years ago. I love it because I just think those kids are having a great time. And that's my son Daniel, that's my son Morris too, so that's always good. But we can take these kids from here to here. Alright? There's some good players in this photograph. There's Anthony Kimlin. There's Greg Oddie. You'll see him tonight. Alright? 200th AIHL goal right there. That was it. Snapshot. 200th AIHL goal. He's due for a hat trick, by the way.
Shut up tonight.
Yeah, no, he's due for a hat trick. But we can take him to that level, right? We can take him to that level. Now, I want to show you some stats before I finish. World Championships, Division II, Group A. This is the team statistics from the tournament, okay? Now, our scoring efficiency has always been below 10%. This year, it was 10.5. But you see where everyone else is, right? So we still got a little room to go. Well, watch this. Power play, Oz, 1. Don't remember the last time that happened. PK, Oz, 1. 93.75%. And it's a good thing, too, because we took the most penalties. Right? Right?
Plenty of practice.
Power play goals against, 2. Short-handed goals for, 1. Net -1. That's pretty damn good. Right? That's pretty darn good. All right? Goaltending, number 1. He didn't get top goaltender. Was clearly the top goaltender. But I look at that, and then I look at this, and my roster from this year, all right? Brendan McDowell, 4 points, 22 years old,
Yeah.
right?
Young players.
Let's go down here. Let's go Shannon McGregor, outstanding, 22 years old. All right, let's go to Cameron Todd, 20 years old, led the team in scoring, 5 points, right? Jimmy Byers, outstanding, was +1,
Yeah.
right? Mitch Humphreys, where's Mitch? Down here, okay? Goal and an assist was +2 for the tournament. Going into the last day, 75% on the face-off, playing against pro players. I'm pretty excited when I look at that. And these guys, the Humphreys, the McDowells, the Todds, came through our development camps, right? They were taught to skate by Debbie Strome, come through our development camps. They're all early 20s and outstanding. So we can get there. We have the players to get there. We just need to, we all push the same direction. I'm pretty confident that we're going to have some success. And then, oh hell, if we can stay in Division 1, I think, look out, you know, we'll become a force. So, anyways, that's my talk, guys. Thanks very much for your attention and attending, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or we'll open the floor up for discussion.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
No worries.
Have you got some thoughts on how we deal with the tyranny of distance?
That is a huge challenge for us. So, the junior league, that's really sensitive to cost, and of course we've got flights if we want to play others. So, I don't know, I think, look, we've got, AIHL's got a bit of a thing with Virgin. IHA now has a bit of a deal with Virgin. I think we got to work on getting some corporate backing for that travel. It's a big issue. All of our tournaments, right? We got, you know, we have to travel a lot to have competition in this country, and I mean, it's money, I think.
Has there been any more talk about not having centralized development camps to split them up at least half and half across the country?
We talked about it at the last meeting about, and Debbie and I have talked about this numerous times, what we do with these development camps, and we think at this stage, right now, we're going to keep them centralized in Newcastle. But again, what we've done, of course, we've got rid of the midget camp because you had those players that had to go in midget camp, and then they were youth players, and then they also are now in the junior league. So the junior league has kind of supplanted that. I guess if you're to decentralize the camps, you need to make sure you've got numbers, and you need to make sure you've got your quality coaches that can run them.
And it also has to be at a set time.
Absolutely.
Because one of the difficulties with the decentralized camps, what we're running with the women's program, because we don't have just kids, of course.
Yeah.
And the women have to work and what have you, so therefore you can't just take a week off
Yeah.
work, is that it's really hard to organize, really hard to get going, because it's not at the same time, same place every
Yeah.
year, and therefore it falls down because you can't get ice, because
Yeah.
everyone's competing for ice. The beauty of these ones is that it is in the same place. And yeah, you do get a lot of guys there. Would you get more if you went around the country?
I think a lot of kids think they go to camp just because it's camp too, right? But look, if we can bring the cost of the camp down, that would be a start.
You know if the AIHL as an organization is receptive to providing some resources and maybe aligning junior development programs with them?
I would like them to be. There's, you know, we need to build some bridges between IHA and the AIHL. I mean, I think they've got a lot to offer. I mean, as far as players that can get involved. I mean, we've had players like Mitch Humphreys came to development camp for the Pee-wees this year, and they loved him. The kids love him. Of course they do. He's a young guy. You know, he's a good hockey player. So I think that conversation needs to be had with them, because it's in their best interest to make sure that that players are being developed, because where are they going to get the players from? You know, and there's a lot of good young players in the league this year. I mean, it's a, you know, it's pretty hard on a lot of clubs to tell the difference between the imports and the locals now. I mean, you can't, Sydney Bears, you can't tell. Cam Todd, I think, is the best player on that team, 20 years old, you know? So they're getting good quality players. So I think we gotta have that conversation, but that's gotta be, I think, I'll probably be involved, but it's gotta be done at a higher level, yeah. Yep.
You involved with the junior league?
Yeah, well, my involvement in the junior league's more of just, because I was under 20 coach for 2 years. So more of a, I'm not involved directly with any organization or management of it, but as I sit on the meetings and the AGM and provide advice, and provide feedback. So I'm abreast of what's going on.
So if a state wants to try and get a team in, is it like, you know, WA had to have 2 teams?
You have to have 2. You can't, that's the issue. You can't make it cost effective without who. So the reason why we needed a junior league in the first place, the IHF requires you to have a junior league, so an under 20 competition that has a minimum 15 games where you can't participate in the World Championships. So we had to start one. And of course, it started with 2 teams in Victoria and 2 teams in New South Wales, because that was obviously, the distance wasn't as great. Then Perth wanted in, so they had to come up with 2 teams. And now Adelaide, South Australia's thing, well, we should have put one in from the beginning, but saying we would like to get in now. The issue in South Australia, I don't know if they have enough players for 2 teams. I know they've approached ACT and they've approached Queensland, can we combine? Which would be good. But the issue is going to be cost.
So you could consider almost ACT though part of New South Wales.
You could.
Yeah, we would be
New South
different.
Wales is
But the reason for the 2 teams is so that does everybody understand what the junior league is? Like, it's a national league for juniors, just like the AIHL.
Yep.
And just like the women's league. And it's a national, but the reason for 2 teams in each town is so that they could play games against each other without having to travel all the time,
So
because otherwise it's not gonna be cost effective.
Yeah, so you bring up the numbers, they play each other about
Yeah,
like 9 or 10 times over the season, and then they travel,
yeah.
they do a couple of road trips.
Like double points games,
Yeah.
so.
So with us, it's just.
But for us, we just go to Sydney. We are in a really good spot here, guys, because we have got the biggest amount of hockey players in the country 3 hours down the road.
Yeah,
Ice Hockey New South Wales, on its own, has got as many players as the whole friggin' country. We can do anything with those people if we want to, however we want to organize it. And the beauty of us is that we don't have to fight with this club, that club, the other club to get everybody in to say, let's do this or let's do that. We've only got 1 rink, so what? So does South Australia. Also, places only got 1 rink. And really and truly, Melbourne's really only got 1 decent rink. But the fact is that we can actually control things within this group. And we can do whatever we bloody feel like it without having other people coming in and having pressures on us from other places. And still tap into Sydney whenever we feel like it. So we can do a lot of really good things if we organize ourselves and we're all on the same page. That's the whole reason why it's so bloody good that all of you guys are here right now to listen to this, because it goes not just from the Adams, it's right through the whole association.
that junior age group is, and that's one of the reasons for the junior league too, that retaining players. You get them through that 16 to 20-year-old age group, you got them. Then they're, because what happens, they can step into the AIHL now. Before they couldn't. You get a kid finishes midget, right? So he's 18 years old. Well, he can't step into the AIHL lineup.
That's what's happening to us.
This is it, there was no link.
Yeah. So
But make no mistake, Ice Hockey Australia sees this as so important that they have put money into the junior league now the first 2 years to make sure that it gets off the ground, and they've put a shitload of money. Really and truly, they are serious about this. And it hasn't happened ever before with the AIHL or the Women's League. Right? It's really important for Ice Hockey Australia, so they're prepared to back it.
yeah, and it is fantastic. Like I said, the guys on that senior team, your Brendan McDowell, your Cam Todd, your Mitchell, they played in that junior league, you know. So, and one of the was, you know, I guess a criticism of the league was like, yeah, but you know, teams don't only have one good line. That's not the point. Everybody's got one good line, right? And those, guess what? Good coaches end up matching those lines. So, and then those top players bring everyone else up too. But it was, you know, I went to games in Perth, and it was good. It's good hockey. you know, and it's something that we need. So I think that's an area that is gonna really help our programs. And, you know, however we structure, I mean, maybe initially there's a combination, SA takes some ACT players and Queensland players, maybe there's a combined group.
Yeah, for a short period of time, you can do it. The women's league did that
Yeah.
for a number of years, and girls were going from one state to another. Girls were coming from WA to come across, and they were playing out of 12 games, they're playing 8 games, and they're flying over at their own cost to play. They'll do it. And it was amazing. There was 3 or 4 players from WA on the Goannas team, which is playing out of Brisbane. But they only have to fly to Adelaide when they're playing there, and only go to Melbourne when they're playing there, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, they're not making weekly trainings, we understand.
Because there was a South Australian player with one of the WA teams. So he'd go over and spend a couple weekends there, play those games, and then he'd come back, and then he'd go on the road trip.
Jordan Millen too, from Queensland.
Yep, exactly.
Sorry, I'm gonna take us back to the earlier kids, just actually on this. New South Wales has indicated that they'd love to see us in the junior league, so maybe there's potential that, given we're so close to New South Wales, if we even had one team, which I don't think we would right now, but even if we only had one team, we might be able to play in that new, because it is 3 hours.
And you,
So
and,
maybe
and
it
you know
is.
what, they've got more kids in New South Wales than 2
They'd
teams
love to give us
worth.
some
So
teams.
therefore, we pick up some more kids there.
Exactly.
And
They've indicated they'd be willing.
like, what the hell?
Or Newcastle.
Or when you go, whoever it is, you know, it could be New South Wales country for all you want. But I mean, the point is that there's options there that we could do it, and we just have to train our kids. But Ryan, what's the next step here in this whole? Okay, now you're presenting this to all the states. Yes, we want to get everybody on board. How are we going to see that everybody is on board? How is there going to be some sort of a ability to measure what's happening?
Well, that's what we need to then put into place, and I think we need to make sure that states are complying. And that goes, you know, what I said, well, there's got to be rewards or implications. I mean, if everyone's not complying, then it's going to fall down. We need everybody doing it, and so that's up to, I guess, IHA at the board level to decide how that's sort of goes about. I mean, I'm here to sort of roll it out, but I mean, I can't say what, you know, if WA decides, screw you, then what do we do? Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe say, well, you don't have an Adams program or a novice program, you can't come to the Jamboree.
Or if
Might
your
have to be
Adams
something
are
like that.
playing full ice hockey all the time,
You're not coming to the
you're
Jamboree.
obviously not on the song with the rest
I
of
mean,
us.
that might have to be done. I mean, USA Hockey's had some issues. They're getting people on, board. Not in the area where they're growing the sport, but you can imagine you're rolling out something new and then you go to pitch it in Minnesota. Oh.
Explain about USA Hockey doing this back then, Ron, because actually that wasn't part of the talk just now. Explain to everyone how that worked.
With USA Hockey. Well, I mean, so they brought in, like, basically, if you don't have a long-term athlete development plan in a lot of countries now, you can't get any funding. So it's mandated. So they put this together in USA Hockey, and then they did a lot of research, and they found that, well, the Europeans were doing a lot of cross-ice stuff. And for the population, like Kevin McLaughlin said, the population of Minnesota has more players than Finland. But Finland had just beaten them in the World Championships. Yeah. And he's like, so they were saying, what are they doing? And a lot of this started with the small area stuff. And then of course you think, well, soccer, right? Kids soccer isn't played on a full-size soccer field, right? So it's just, they started piecing this together. And they rolled it out, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They rolled this program out. And it's, they're growing the sport in non-traditional markets. And it's part of that, this is being widely accepted. But it's the states like Massachusetts, Minnesota, where they've struggled. No worries. So they took a bit of, they've had to
Ryan, I think they
push
actually
people in.
made their funding from the national body contingent on
Yeah.
associations
Yeah.
adopting the ADM.
Yeah, so
They
there's-
didn't adopt it, they didn't get any
That's right. So there's a
program.
sort of the stick approach to it.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought that's what we discussed at the board meeting that time, was that IIHA funding was actually going to be reliant on us rolling out this kind of program. But maybe I'm wrong.
No,
But
no,
there's-
we have to have development program, and we've got to show we've got a development program, and, you know, we have to file a report every year saying we have X number of kids, I can't remember what it is, it might be 100 or something, we've got to have so many kids in a development program. And, you know, so we look at our development camps, and that's, we can present that data, and now McRae is part of that program, so we can show we've got this development pathway, to satisfy, so that is a requirement to get double IHF
And
development
that's
funds.
the funding, yeah. Two things I just want to mention. One is, it doesn't surprise me that Europeans do well, because soccer's always been, to me, the thing that breaks that understanding of the space and everything. But that's one comment. But the looking at the younger age groups and the disparity in skill, the fact that kids come in at different ages, the fact that like they didn't learn to skate on the local rink because they were in Australia, we don't have a local rink, or in your backyard or whatever the case may be, is just your thoughts on age versus skill brackets.
We face some challenges. I mean, we get kids, we get, like in SA, we have a kid, 14-year-old kid rolls up, wants to play hockey. Well, age group wise, he's a bantam. Can't put a first time into bantam, right? Body checking? No, it's a challenge. I think it's a balance.
So what are you doing?
Well, we stuck him in, we've had him come out to Pee Wee trainings, and, you know, we've talked, you communicate with the parents right off the bat, that's the thing, you talk to them. You got to get them up, try to get them up to that level, and it's a challenge we all have, but, you know, we have duty care, we can't stick him in a bantam game, just can't do it. So he'll,
We can't stick him in the Pee Wee League here either.
well, we're gonna stick him in the Pee Wee League, just till he gets up.
Just in one corner, train him.
And what about games?
Yeah, he'll play some games, yeah,
In Pee Wee League?
yeah.
That's
Okay,
how
that's okay, no
That's-
issues with insurance, and
No.
what about with atoms? Like, who would need to be played up in that?
Yeah, that's, you got Adams playing up, Bam's playing down. Where's that size?
I don't, playing up is a different story, in my opinion. So the issue with playing up, all right, this is, and I've seen this time and again. Now, if a kid's gonna play up, the age group above needs to be short players. If they're not short players,
We have always been short.
and the kid, yeah, but if a kid's playing up, so I mean, this is a lot, like, you might have the top kid at that age group, well, he should be playing up. He moves up to play, he's now taking ice time away from someone in that age group.
Yep.
And that's, you know, when you have limited resources, that's
But
not,
if he's
that's
still in a
not right.
spot that's, you've got no one that, you don't have them there anyway.
If you're short,
Yeah.
then I think it's a different
And we don't
story.
have that now.
But, you gotta make sure,
Do we?
Well, none of it, what do you mean? Short?
Pee Wee and Pee Wee and Adams, we starting now. We're at 60 on the ice.
Uh,
Well, that doesn't seem to me to be short.
We're playing with them up. We're playing with them up. I mean, some of them are bigger than all the people in they need to.
but you
Well,
got
that's another
also, you gotta weigh out your
age.
cognitive development and your physical development. And they might be bigger, but mentally they're the same age, right? So, it's legit. Now, what I've seen happen with kids that play up, then they get out of the Tange team, okay? So now they're 18, 17 or 18, and you expect them to be leaders.
Yep.
They don't have a clue. Don't have a clue, because they've always been the young kid playing up. And they get I call it prima donna syndrome, and I can name a lot of players who've had that have dropped out of the sport, or have had issues with the sport, or issues with other things, and now some of them have come back, but I think you gotta be very, very careful with that, because it's not just the skill of the player, it's his emotional, his development, cognitive development, all that stuff that you gotta weigh up. And, I mean, I've had parents say, oh, you know, like, that's this conversation, well, my kid, he's like the best novice player, so he should play Pee Wee. I'm like, I've got 2 full teams of Pee Wees. If he moves up to Pee Wee, you go tell the parents of that kid's ice that he's taken, right? Because it's limited amount of ice. And he's got a program in novice, he's getting plenty of ice. But he's the best kid. There's nothing wrong with being the best kid. He gets to handle the puck a bit more.
What about on your Ginsberg team?
For Ginsberg,
Would you?
unless you're short, my opinion, no. Nope, you don't play them up. You don't, they get their turn. They get their turn. All right? Now, we have a challenge in SA because, and in fact, it's in our, well, in fact, it's IHA sport regs. kids can only play up by invitation, right? And we said in SA, if you got 20 Ginsburg kids and you're gonna cut 5 of those in the age group, you can't bring up kids, right? Now, we have an issue this year because we've got some, with that policy, we've got some players that are first-time players. And that creates another, I guess, can of worms for us because they've just joined the program too, right? But at least my opinion is from a, you know, if they've all come through the program at the same rate, then I don't like kids coming up into Ginsburg.
So it's almost two different, like I look at things maybe a little bit differently. So you've got the kids that, you know, developing, started really early, Jordan, going up, wants to achieve up there.
Yep.
Then you got kids like my kid, started late, he's interested in just playing hockey.
Yeah.
Socially. So there's two development streams really.
Yeah.
He still wants to learn.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it's not the elite
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
Because he isn't interested.
But
or
then
doesn't
again,
have the skills.
so you ask the kid, do you want to play Ginsburg?
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't. Okay, well then, now you might be short. But I think you gotta be very cautious about pushing kids up because it's a late developing sport. So if you take away an opportunity from a kid in one age group, because for a kid that's younger, that younger kid's going to get that opportunity.
So most of our teams, we don't have numbers anyway, our registration rates.
Exactly, well, if you're
makes
short, it's not an
sense.
issue.
Yeah.
It's not, if you're
Short, short on skill.
Well, but
I'd say it's short on
that's
skill.
only, yeah, that's only now at this stage of the game, Bronte, because our older age group kids are down. If we keep what we're doing with the young ones and with the Adams and the Peewees, and if we can keep them, we'll have enough for Bantams. And then they'll have enough for midgets.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta
If you
patch.
take into account what Ryan said in his presentation, and about the fact that it's a late developing sport, and that, you know, all the various ways that the kids are gonna learn, then if we're on the ball, we're going to avoid changing people's age groups as much as possible, wherever possible. And I'll tell you something, I just had a really long email from WA inquiring about a decision made by their PUP committee. That's the Playing Up Policy Committee. They've got a committee who just deals with people wanting to have their kids playing up. There's so many people wanting to do that. And they've got special meetings to do this, and you should have seen the reams of discussions from Pee-wee players wanting to play in midgets. Like, I'm going, this can't be right.
No, I know, it's.
I don't know what the hell's going on there.
We had, so, before we brought in this policy, it was, well, I guess it was always there, but it was never enforced. We had a kid play up, I think when I first got to WA, this would be about 4 years ago. And they stuck him on the Brown team as a 15-year-old. And he broke his collarbone in the tournament. Absolutely shattered it. He's left the sport, okay? Now, there's a duty of care that somebody messed up on there because you had a kid playing up with men. That was ridiculous in my opinion. And they said, oh, well, he's a good player. Well, yeah, but he's also growing. And you get a big guy leans on you, you're gonna snap like a twig. And so we gotta factor all that in. And, you know, it's, to me, I'm uncomfortable. I mean, we've got to bring a couple kids up to play Tange because we don't have enough players. And, you know, we make sure that they're kids that can handle it, and we have to sign
So it's
some
about-
paperwork, but we're
It's not
short.
just about age, it's about size, skill.
Mental.
All sorts of things, yeah.
There's other things going in.
One
so
kid's
it's
getting
very
got body checked from behind in the band, and now he's not sure he wants to play Tange. Like, well, you better be sure, because if you're unsure, we're not gonna sign you up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but, you know, SA's short, and they're hosting the
just
tournament.
Just to go back to that, age versus skill brackets, which was a discussion around this playing up, down, and all the other stuff.
Tange.
The
I
cons-
think we're hosting Tange, yeah.
That's in Melbourne.
Oh, is it Melbourne? That's in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
That's right. No, we're
Yeah,
hosting
end of
Ginsburg,
June.
that's right.
I guess what we're struggling with at the moment a little bit, struggle is probably the wrong word, but we are considering is how do we allow kids who are coming into the game as a bantam age player,
I know.
male or female, and of course then we do also have that added thing I was thinking about also about the girls and boys as they split off and how that works in a small community of hockey, but they come up and how do we manage that
You know,
that thing and and for us, one of the ways might be that we bracket them based on skill, bearing in mind you can't have too big a size difference and all that.
It's such a, we have a unique challenge in this country because we get those kids. I mean, I don't know, to be honest, we tend to handle them case by case.
Yeah.
They're hard to deal with, and it's, you know, because they come in late, and they come into where, oh, now we've got body checking, and then of course, our if you look at our constitution, well, we're an inclusive club, we're open to all. So you can't tell him he can't play. If he wants to play, you gotta find a spot for him. It's really tough.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't, if we start saying, oh, no, you can't, well, I mean, Sport SA doesn't like that, because we're supposed to be inclusive.
So it's about where do we direct, and I think the idea
Yeah.
of directing to the skating lessons first.
Yeah, no,
That's what I
I mean,
explained
we
to
do
Ryan
that, but
anyway.
it's a tough
But even
one.
there, learning how to body check, although I get it, and I'm still not one of those.
And we don't have attention league to do as well.
Not a specific Benton Lake, that's exactly right.
Not this year.
No, and maybe in the
Down the road
future
we
we'll be
will.
able to do that depending on what we
I
have
think-
going forward.
You know, I think it's,
Yeah.
I think, you know, we gotta start promoting the sport at the younger age groups, get them hooked early,
Get the numbers so that we can cope with
reduce those problems. I mean, we tried this in Sweden last year, and they were talking about some of this stuff, and I raised my hand and I said, look, we have an interesting problem in Australia, and I mentioned, like, we've got kids that start the sport when they're 12, 13, 14. And we have to, you know, it's a challenge. But some of those kids, David Huxley, has gone on to play for the national team.
Oh,
Started at 13. So,
This is,
Yeah.
this is the skill-based.
Yeah.
There isn't many though.
No.
And this is the difference.
but again, also, the thing about those players, that that all
They were
consistent, they were
athletes.
good athletes when they came in the sport. And that's one of the issues. Sometimes, what I guess, and I don't know how we handle this one, you get kids, because they're looking for a sport to play, and they're just not very good athletes. And then they go, oh, well, ice hockey, because we don't have a lot of kids, then there's a team for them to play on, but they're not, they weren't good athletes to begin with.
Yeah.
And then they're 14 or 15, and now you're gonna come try perhaps the hardest sport
Yeah.
there is to learn how to
And
play.
at home in Canada, what would have happened is, those kids don't make the school-based team or whatever it is, depending where you come from in the country. They just go to the local rink and play hockey.
Yeah.
And
They play
and-
shinny
And
stuff,
so
yeah.
you play shinny, you don't.
We have an issue in SA because we've got C grade that's started up and it's growing. And then I get lots of these kids, they wanna play C grade. And they're, now technically, it's an adult league, so
Yeah.
they wanna play up. Now, the skill, it's not an issue, and it's not contact, it's not the issue. But then I'm like, okay, so we had like 14-year-old girl wants to play C grade. Okay, the games are late at night, you've got, you know, dressing room, it's a bunch of middle-aged men on the team. I mean, holy crap, what a can of worms you're opening.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to sort of think about these things as well. And, you know, and the parents will say, oh, no, well, I approve it. I'm like, yeah, but,
That's not it.
you know, our member protection
Not
officer's not
everybody-
comfortable with
Not
this.
everybody wants to play for Australia or play for
No, no,
the Tanzania stuff.
absolutely.
I mean, it's a good sport
Yep.
all round.
Yep.
Even if you're not an athlete, to play in your later years and in your younger years. So you should really have non-contact senior D, senior C safely.
Absolutely. Maybe we need a stream for that recreational player that starts late. you
And
know.
I'll tell you what, once you play ice hockey, no other sport
You're hooked.
is as good
I know.
as
You're
ice hockey.
I think that's what Newcastle try to do when through their North South Academy program is, you come in, you learn, get all the basics down, and then they direct you off to whether it's drop-in hockey, or whether you go into one of their feeder teams, Ben and Midget, whatever they play in New South Wales comp, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they get you in, give you all that you need to do first, and then they have a couple of paths you can take. And then we really don't have too many paths
Yeah,
you can take at
it's
the
a
moment.
challenge.
But especially for young kids, like that 12, 13, 14 that come in, we don't really have that sort of established yet.
We have an academy too, but they don't get to play games, so, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought about trying to cash in on that, rather than looking at it as a negative.
Yeah.
You're getting kids start choosing their own sports
Yep.
between the ages of 13 to 15.
Yep.
So you're getting kids that in Australia, typically they've had a background of a range of sports.
Yeah.
So they're coming to hockey
Yep.
with a sporting background. So rather than looking at that as a problem, why not, you've taken away the midget camp, but why not have a camp for those kids, like a development style camp for that age group, bantam midget age group. Take them so they get the camp experience, you're giving them skills, they're getting that intensive, that ice time and all all that training, and then those kids with their sporting background have the ability, you know, the hockey player doesn't peak till 26, 27, they've got plenty of time to get to that level if they want to, so we could actually cash in.
I agree, and I think, so I think what we need to do, I mean, we need to cooperate, because we have an academy in South Australia, and a lot of kids come to this academy at that age. But the issue is the academy doesn't play games, so maybe we need to work better with them and say, look, let's organize some games for them. And we'll take some of our bantam kids, and we'll play some non-contact hockey with these kids. I mean, I think we always have to be, I think we gotta be a little more creative and a little more, you know, innovative with how we do it. But I think, look, it starts here with these discussions, that's where it starts, you know, and I think it's really important.
Fiona's right in that 12, that 13, 14, whatever year old. It's almost like we need to basically create a high school group of kids and then make it a social thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, one of the things, if you look at the presentation there, that the kids in Sweden and whatever are getting a couple of ice sessions a week when they're little, okay? And they're not moving up, they're not getting 6 or 7 ice sessions a week. Now, hang on a second. If they're only getting a couple of ice sessions in a week, how come they're such bloody good skaters?
I think actually there's more to that. They got outdoor rinks.
Yeah,
public sessions.
they're going out there and they're skating in different places at public sessions. But I think you're gonna find also that when they're learning how to play, that the people who are teaching them how to skate know how to teach them how to skate. They're not just pointing them in one direction, saying, go this way, now turn around and go back that way.
I think
that's critical to when they are learning, when they're at that development age of learn how to skate, which is the most important skill of anything to do with hockey, because you can't play if you can't skate well. Doesn't matter how good a stick handler you are, you can't play. If you gotta learn how to skate properly, that's the key.
If you're on the ice with Debbie Strom as a coach, and you don't correct, you don't give feedback, she'll be on you. And that's one of her bugbears, and I see it all the time too, where you get coaches on the ice, and they're doing a drill, but they're just standing there. And a kid's doing something wrong, and they don't stop it, bring them out and correct it. And so, I think Rocky's right, we as coaches can do a better job of that as well. We need to be correcting those kids, and if you don't know how to do it, you gotta ask somebody, how do I do this? Or, if you can't demonstrate it, get an IHL player, get a junior player up that can do it. I mean, we gotta make sure we're doing that stuff properly. I think you're right. They don't get, it's not like they're getting nice every day, and they're still developing. But I have seen their practices in Sweden. They got stationized, 6 stations, 10 to 12 kids a station, and they got a coach at each station, and the coach is correct all the time. And so, we can do that sort of stuff.
So just so you guys know, I know we'll be announced soon, but confirm with Darren, but we've got ice in July, and Debbie Strom is coming here to run a specialty clinic to teach coaches how to teach skating, basics of what we need to show the guys and what we need to be working on when you're teaching skating. There's 3 different clinics that she's gonna run, but we can only do one at a time. It'll be a Monday night classroom session for an hour and a half, and then it'll be 75-minute on ice on a Tuesday. And I'm just confirming that now with Darren with ice, and Debbie has already confirmed that she can come. Ice Hockey Australia pays for this. They will pay for them to come. But that's the kind of thing that we need to do just to make it easier for all of you guys. Because heck, what did you learn in a level 1 coaching course? You sure as hell didn't learn how to teach people how to skate.
No, that's right.
I can tell you that right now. Because if you think you did, you're mistaken. Well, Bear's worked with her a lot, and Bear's actually gonna come and help up too, so this is gonna be right up your alley, Bear, this one.
With regard to that, maybe, and this is something with Darren that you'll discuss, but, one of the other options if we are short on ice, is we just use our practice times for the kids. If it's gonna be about the kids, if it's about adults, that's fine too, then we can maybe share that, so a half an hour practice, and then the hour that cuts across that Debbie's here with them, and then the other half hour is somebody else's practice, so we share that pain.
Same thing with the goalie camp, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we do.
Yeah.
We got a goalie camp on the planned as well. We get a specialist goalie coach, someone who, not just someone who's a good goalie, not someone who knows a little bit about, someone who actually knows how to teach,
Have to teach goaltenders, yeah.
which is really important, all right? I've already got it lined up. It's just gotta pick a date that we can get some ice. So those are the sorts of things that are really gonna help you guys. Because, you know, we need all the specialist help we can get.
We do.
I shadowed the we brought a goalie coach from Canada. That's what he does, he coaches goalies for development camp, and I shadowed him for a couple of days. You know, so as you're, you know, bits, you just sort of watch him work, and man, you pick up stuff too. So if you have a goalie coach and you get out there, like watch him, and you pick up enough where you'll be comfortable teaching some of the basic stuff to your goalies, you know? And, you know, I think that's all valuable stuff. So if you got coaches like that coming over and you can shadow them, go work with them, I think take that opportunity, because, you know, they're pretty good at what they do.
It's a game.
Coaching years, just the juniors or seniors?
Oh, it'll be everybody.
Whoever wants to turn up.
It'll be an ice hockey, it'll be ACT Ice Hockey Association goalie clinic, and it'll be run for every goalie in the place.
Or everyone who wants to be a goalie.
Or anyone who wants to be a goalie, and it'll be, he'll have them out there, and then what's gonna happen is, it's not gonna be a free weekend for you guys, cause you guys are gonna be there too, because we have to be there to watch, like Ryan just said. The first year when we brought Debbie over here, I mean, the very first time when we got Debbie to come, I organized, we got her out on the ice, and we had like 2 coaches, myself and somebody else, come to work with her. And we're going, what the hell's the point of this? She said to me, what's going on, Rock? I'm going, I don't know. Everybody must have thought it was a free night. So she's working with all the kids, and none of the coaches were there to learn. That's how you learn. You learn off the other coaches. That's how you learn. And so it was huge. But now you find it's limited.
I've stole every drill, I think, from somebody else. I maybe came up with one. I steal from her. You go to Sweden and you watch a practice, or Finland, you're like, oh, what? Oh, that's a good drill. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah,
You know?
but I noticed that was when I was in Canada last. I was watching some of it, and I went, "Oh yeah, we did that." I remember. I mean,
Oh, it's pretty big.
30 years ago. I mean, 40 years ago now.
I didn't know.
Ryan, one other technical thing, those cross-size boards.
Yeah.
Can you get hold of them in Australia?
Well,
Can you get them?
I'm sure we can get them, but I.
Ryan's gonna be Ice Hockey Australia to supply them to anybody who conforms to this program.
They're awesome, eh?
Going for the Adams half ice.
I mean, it would be good. It would be good to get some. So we.
Matt, you're talking about those boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking
Yeah,
about
we've
it.
been
We
talking
want.
about
to
We
do
use-
it.
Try and get them.
We
How
try to get
them?
them. How much it is?
Shipped in, we'll get them shipped in.
Hey, go for it.
We use fire hoses.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. We just put a fire hose down. It keeps the
No,
puck
I think
in.
that we need to have, they have to be like, almost like,
Well, the point is,
containers, like,
this is great to get these boards, and it's wonderful, and when they arrive in October, it'll be great, but the whole season's gone.
Yeah.
So, we gotta do something now, we gotta do it right away.
Get a rope,
We
get a
can
fire
get a
hose.
bloody
Oh,
rope
you can get a rope just after.
in no
the
time
big
flat,
shipping
until
rope.
we can get the other stuff and decide what we wanna
Yeah,
get, and then let's get it.
2x18, simple cross.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, rope works better.
Yeah.
Well, just so it's easy to roll up and
Easy
get
to
off
roll
the
up.
ice.
Call the fire department and ask them for some old hoses.
I wonder if we know anybody.
Yeah, do we know anybody?
Hey Al, how are you?
You probably need to disappear.
Really?
Ryan.
Yeah,
Got a team to go, Jake?
I gotta go
Well,
coach
why the
my
hell
team.
did
So
you do that?
who's doing the game tonight?
Yeah, flipping a coin, yeah.
I don't know yet.
It's gonna be Al or Al.
You might be doing it.
Peter Cunningham, where I.
Oh, so I should speak nicely to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy him a rum and coke.
I don't yell at Al very often.
This was great, thank you
Thanks,
very
you
much.
way to go, Ryan.
My pleasure.
Yep, it's good.
You got it, no, let's keep him here for a bit longer, guys.
My team's probably not here yet. They won't be here till 4.
No, that's pretty close.
So it's 15.
So,
I'll be
Al,
Yeah.
middle Al.
Good work.
What can I do
Wow.
about the hamstring can't play up and the?
We'll carry your bag. No problem.
chat to Al.
Well, why don't you come up, why don't the coaches come up?
We'll consider it. Sorry?
Why don't the coaches come up with a formal proposal? I don't need a written proposal.